Welcome to Burn the Ship with podcast where we connect professionals to entrepreneurs to help you go all in on your business. I'm your host, Ezra Brown, and then without further ado, I'm going to allow my guest to introduce himself.
Hello, everybody. I'm Paul Schmidt. I'm the owner and creative video strategist for UnoDuece Multimedia.
Awesome, man. And kind of give us a little bit of a background on yourself, and what led you into being in the film world.
A little bit about myself. Well, I'm born and raised in Michigan, the northern part of the Lower Peninsula. For those that don't know, where Michigan has two parts. I'm still in the Lower Peninsula, as they say in the Upper Peninsula. That I'm technically a troll, as they call it, because we're below the bridge. So I grew up, like I said, born and raised in Michigan, and my journey into where I am today is I don't even know. It's quite it's not a straight road. But so all in all, in essence, I got involved with in high school. I got selected to go to an exclusive what they call a television camp. So you learn all the ins and outs of creating broadcast videos, style videos. This is in the early 90s. I hope I didn't just date myself, but there you go. Early 90s, I was flew out to Seattle, but that wasn't my goal. My goal, I was going to go into theater
Right.
when I went to school. But due to the fact that I spent this time at this camp, which was in my junior year, between my junior and senior year of high school, I worked with another one of the folks that was participating, and we created this public service announcement. We just did it as a side thing. She saw something that she wanted to make on the side since we had the equipment and just we're given the knowledge. So we just decided to band together and create this public service announcement. And what ended up happening was that public service announcement won a big award and was was actually broadcast all along the west coast of the United States. Obviously, I couldn't see it because I didn't live on the west coast.
Right.
But but yeah, so from there, I got that letter that it received this award, and I was like, well, maybe the acting thing, maybe being in front of the camera isn't where I'm supposed to be. So I just took that note. I was like, all right, and switched and changed my major to broadcasting, and I never looked back from then.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so graduated from college, went into television for a little bit. Then actually I got an opportunity to go and work for that camp that I learned all that stuff from. And but they also had a revenue generating arm during the rest of the year that produced video productions for nonprofit organizations. I really, really enjoyed that because
Right.
I wasn't big on the news, the broadcast news end of things.
Yeah.
Um, and and so I just shifted to that. And then when I moved back to Michigan from Seattle, um, uh, I decided to start that up while I looked for a job, quote unquote. As you can tell, 20 some odd years later, I still haven't found that job. So I just created this job.
Right.
So and I just went from there. And that's actually my journey into, you know, figuring out that this is the road I wanted to take and then creating a business from it.
Right, man. That's super cool. Super awesome. You don't hear that a lot. A lot of people go into one industry and hop right out of it. And you going into theater, that kind of being what you want to do, that acting side. You still get to see that day to day. You know what I mean? You're still getting to be a part of something that is in that original vertical of what you wanted to do. It's just a different little niche inside of there, which is super cool, man. I can very much appreciate that. It's kind of like me in sales. I was a
Mm-hmm.
collegiate athlete and I was an athlete my whole life, so I'm super competitive. So now I get to be in a competitive environment. So I thoroughly enjoy it. So it's just a little bit of a shift, but it's just
Yeah.
make it. You can make all the same principles stand the same.
Mm-hmm.
But kind of give us that what's it been like, with the video production, since you've owned your own company, what was it like, give us that origin story of your company, you know what I mean? And how that is now, what was that start day, and then kind of what's it look like now?
The start date is one of the key aspects to the story
Right.
because I know that when I came back, well, first of all, I was able to acquire some equipment uh, very reasonably from a friend of mine whose video company. But when I was out in Seattle, I shouldn't say his video company, but a video company he was working with. Um, the person decided to retire, and so he was selling off his stuff, and it was pretty new stuff. And
Right.
I said, okay, well, I'll grab that. Just so I started with a core bit of equipment, and so my whole plan was I was going to drive back home. So I drove cross country from Seattle back to Michigan. That was something I recommend anybody doing. Not necessarily from Seattle, but when you have an opportunity to drive across the country, just do it. It's a good time to really reset. And and you see and beautiful things and you experience cool places. But so moving back, I was excited. I knew that I wanted to start something new, and I was like, I think so. That's what I'm gonna do. When I get home, I'm just gonna like get up and start something new. This is what I want to do. I had a name in mind. I had all this, and I was really excited about it. So I got up early, um, and I was started really early. In fact, it's actually a habit of mine. I'm an early bird. I start really early, um, and uh, and I was just going on and on, going into my day. Got a phone call asking about my sister who was living in New York City at the time. And I'm like, why is somebody asking me about my sister at 9 o'clock in the morning?
Right.
This is ridiculous. I mean, it's like, they're like, what are you doing? I said, I'm trying to start my life here. I'm starting a business. I'm just working here. And they're like, why aren't you watching TV? No, I'm busy. And they're like, just turn on the TV. And so I did. And that's when I saw the second plane hit the tower. And from that moment, I knew my day wasn't going to go the same as it started. Because, like I said, my sister lived in New York City. So I was at home trying to start a business.
Right.
I actually did start it, but neither here nor there. It's just, but I had to like be Grand Central Station because everybody was calling the house and worrying about my sister. Luckily, she wasn't in the city at that time.
Thank God.
However, the lesson that I learned from that instance was, okay, um, this must mean that no day is going to be the same. There's always going to be something that catches your attention or grabs you or really surprises you in the moment. And from that situation, what do you do next? How do you because this is in the moment. Some things you don't plan for. This nobody planned for.
Right. Right.
And so it's like, okay, how do we and I just took that as kind of a mantra of taking every day as it comes. It may not end the way you want it to, but there's always the next day. And so that's exactly what I moved forward with. I did that and just went in that direction. And that was like I said, that was 9/11, that day. And which I call that's the official birthday of my business.
Which is crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy because when people recognize that, they're like, oh my gosh, you know, But that's the other aspect is I don't look at 9/11 in my instance, my situation. I don't look at 9/11 as a day of negativity, but as a day of growth, of rebirth, of moving forward. And
Right.
so it's always something that you remember, that you keep in your mind, but at the same time, I also look at it as a celebratory day.
Right. Right.
Um,
Right. Yeah,
so
definitely.
yeah,
And that's man, it definitely probably would have shifted my mind, especially in the entrepreneur side, is going into business, especially that day would have definitely shifted me a little bit. Did it definitely What's the word I'm looking for here? I guess did it kind of take a little toll on you, going in that day and thinking like, wait, is the world going to be the same, or am I going to be able to do this? Kind of did it give you that little bit of that little bit of hesitancy, as that happened?
Actually, it really didn't. It gave me a sense of, a lot of people are going to be starting over today. And that's exactly what I was doing. I was starting over. I was on a new start. I shouldn't say starting over, but I was giving myself a refresh, a reboot. And there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be rebooting today
Right.
or that day. And so I just leaned into developing that, learning it, because, you know, I never took a business course. I was never a child of an entrepreneur, or I didn't really have any entrepreneurs in my family.
Right.
I didn't. The closest I had was my grandmother, who owned like a, she called it the coffee shop. So it was like a brunch place, open from 6 to 2.
Right.
But she retired from that when I was like 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
So I have vague, fond memories of it, but all in all, I wasn't taught or this situation. So having a business was not my end goal
Right.
starting out. It was, to me, it was like, okay, this is a stopgap. This is just like something so that I can keep my skills going, keep my talent in check
Right.
while I look for what's going to be the end game.
Right.
And so, but I did all the things that you're supposed to do when it comes to the business, EIN, LLC, all that other stuff,
Mm-hmm.
registering all that, registering the name, all, doing the Lara stuff, all that stuff. I don't know if you have Lara. That might be a Michigan thing.
For my side, I hear it a ton. No, that's
Yeah,
tax ID,
yeah,
LLC, and that's about it. I think that's it for
yeah.
us.
So, and uh, but yeah, so all of that, I was doing all of that so I could put myself in position, especially when it came, because if I'm doing all this stuff, I have to claim whatever on the taxes. So, I mean, I was just trying to be doing my due diligence, and at the same time, just trying to do what I love to do, and thought that I was going to land somewhere else. But, it took me 10 years to figure out, okay, I'm not going anywhere else.
Right. Right.
So, so that's how that all began.
That's super awesome. Super awesome. Well, Paul, what's it called? What would it be? Every owner, we talked about this on the phone, every business owner kind of goes through these things, so, that they have things that they can lean on when they first start up, and then there's those things that they know, like, this could be the killer to my business is if I don't either find somebody or figure these skills out. What was that one thing that you knew was kind of like the thing you could lean on when you first started, that you knew you were good at, but you knew you could control, but you definitely needed that team. What was that one thing that you could lean on?
The one thing that I could lean on was my ability um, to craft a story. That was my skill set. That's what I know. Um, I wouldn't say that I'm like the best videographer. I can't say that I'm the best editor, but I'm one heck of a storyteller, and I can interview and converse with people and get exactly the things that I need for the story that I need to tell.
Right.
I enjoy it. I enjoy being around people. So that's always been a skill that I've had. Um, and it can be transferable. I can share and show folks how to do that. But it really takes a passion for the industry that we chose to work in, because I kept that uh, love of working with nonprofit organizations, because what I wanted to really do is share the stories of these folks who are your neighbors, your coworkers, your your church friends, all those other folks. They're doing amazing things for these different organizations, and the organizations themselves making all these huge inroads and positive impacts. And just I wanted I wanted to be able to share what they're doing.
Right.
Um, and so being able to look, to craft that and and teach that, and um, to the folks that work with me and also don't no longer work with me, that have moved on, like they were former interns. I still hear from the former interns that said, the time with you, even though it was short, I learned so much, and it's helped me become a better producer.
Right.
Because of the fact that we work within an angle of looking at the person's story, not just the technology that captures it, but the essence that's within it.
Right. Yeah. And
That's
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 awesome.
where that's where we really that's where I really try to drive home.
That's awesome. So, it's got some curiosity because video and film work could be done in thousands of ways. You know what I mean? You can make a story. You can kind of portray one. You can kind of envision, try to show somebody, a day in the life type deals. Anything in that nature. And you say you're a really good storyteller. So, would you say, or pulling that story from somebody, would you say that that's most of y'all's work? Your ideal clients, that person that's looking, doesn't know how to formulate their story, but you are the person that you want to pull it out of them. You like, whenever somebody calls you, is like, hey, Paul, I want to, I'm looking for video services. I think I just need some advertising, this and this. That's probably not your ideal client. And then, but you'll definitely take them. You would. I mean, it's just business, but that person that calls and is like, hey, look, I've got this sauce I've made. I've had it for years. Kind of has my story, but I don't know how to portray it myself.
Hmm.
And then you're like, okay. So then it goes to, I use myself for example. So it's they go to pick from you know somebody else's sauce, ragu sauce, to Ezra sauce, and they're like, wait, I've seen something on that before. And then they're like, there's a cool story behind this, da da da. And then we're human, so guess what that story does to that human mind? It makes us have that bias to where, oh, this is going to be so good, and then they eat it and it could be the worst sauce on the planet, but they've got that mental bias that's been in there and instilled by that story, that they think it's awesome. So that is that. Am I correct whenever I say that? That's kind of like more of what y'all are doing versus that marketing, advertising for people. Y'all are really trying to put the face to the story.
What do we really sell, um, is the authentic authentic people behind the brand.
Right.
Um, we don't, a lot of the stuff that we do is not promotional or super advertising or anything like that, for the simple fact that we don't want to put words in people's mouths. We want to hear the words that come out of the mouths,
Right.
naturally. And um, within that aspect. So we're more on the informational or brand awareness side. Just trying to capture that. Like I said, trying to capture the essence of the organization in and of itself, what they do, why they do it, why they get up every day to do the things that they do, or why did you create this service and or product? What is it supposed to do? How do you manage to keep it going?
Right.
Let's get that. What does that mean? What does all that mean for you organizationally? And let's illustrate it.
Right. That's awesome. Illustrating their values. What are their values as a company? That's awesome. That's a really good mantra. Um, what'd you do really? What you struggle with when you started? The hard question.
The struggle, and I wouldn't say that it's something that I've even moved past, but like I said, I didn't take any business classes. Not that you have to
Right.
be an entrepreneur. I mean, as soon as you finish like 2 or 3 years of being an entrepreneur, if you've gotten past the 3 to 4 year mark, you've already got your MBA.
Right.
But at the same time, it would have been nice to know some of the philosophies and accounting principles and practices that it just doesn't come natural. Like myself, um, Math is not a natural thing for me.
Right.
It's not something I enjoy doing. It's not something it's not easy for me, but it's something that I've had to learn to figure out how to make sure that um, I'm breaking even or making a profit or all these other things. Though that is the biggest struggle with it's always been trying to figure out, okay, what do these numbers mean and how can I have them work for me?
Right.
And I was really adamant in trying to learn that because that was the biggest, I don't want to say obstacle, but it was a difficult, that was the most difficult aspect of, being in business.
Right.
Um, you know, because it's like, all right, I don't know what the aspects of a balance sheet mean, or the profit and loss statement and all this other stuff. What does that all, how does that all work? How does it balance out? What is going on here? I mean, I I made it work, but I'm not so sure. Some of it was probably luck, at least in the beginning.
Right.
Then you learn the strategy of it, and it's just like, okay, but it's still something that is not my favorite thing. That's
Right. And
why I
that's
have bookkeepers and all this other stuff that they can pull it all together, and I can just look at the results and be like, oh, I see where we have an issue here. I see where, and now I'm going even more granular. Um, and so it's just, yeah, but learning that, learning where your weaknesses are and then having somebody help you prepare that allows that even more. But at the very beginning, you're scraping pennies just to make sure you eat and pay the
right.
rent.
Right.
And so there's a lot that you have to learn, and it takes some time.
Right, and that's this is the model I always use because we do credit card processing, so we see people's statements. They're kind of what the revenue's coming in a ton, and I always say this because everybody's like, oh, I've got the best processing rate, or I've been with my processor for 10 years. They would never do me like that. Anything, they wouldn't up my rate or nothing like this. And that's what we always say is Joe may be a really good plumber at Joe's Plumbing, but Joe probably has no idea what's going on in that back office of what the end of day to day. Joe is really good at going out and taking care of people and really good with people, but what's going on that backside that's going to make you the most successful? You know what I mean? That's going to where everything's going to turn over on that backside because you can be as great as you want to be, but how are you going to make profit if you can't run that office side? And that's super. I feel like I feel like I hear that one not enough in whenever I sit down to do these podcasts. I feel like I don't hear that one enough. I feel like I hear it's like I was really bad with time, or I was really bad with these things, which are just common, very common things that happen in life, not just in business. And I feel like entrepreneurship is very parallel with I would say being successful at anything in life. Hard work, dedication is the that I say the cliche that they say, but it takes hard work and dedication if you want to paint a room and it look good. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
especially if you want a business to run, if you want it to be your livelihood, it definitely takes a ton of hard work and dedication. So I feel like it's just pulling that real raw thought from the people outside of that. You know what I mean? And kind of hearing what it is, because Joe from Joe's Plumbing could be the greatest, most hardworking person ever, but Joe just has no idea what a spreadsheet or how to work it, how to even turn it on, and how to look at it. So and then I feel like that's a very common answer, but definitely one that I haven't heard a ton on here is that I hear it from regular people, but I don't hear it I don't hear it on the podcast a ton. And then
I'm not scared to admit that because, like
right,
I said, it's a struggle that I have all the time, even still today. It's
right,
one of the things I'm still working on.
right, and then Paul, what's your day to day look like now?
My day to day, um, well, actually, it's funny. It's like around 2013, um, I got to a point where I'm running. I'm a video producer, but I was running into a situation where 2.5 days out of that week, it was all administrative. And I was like, this can't, I can't do this by myself anymore.
Right,
So that's when I went and restructured my whole company. brought in an accountant to help me do it. And from there, now what my role is, because now we're a team of three, three or four, 3.5. And so, so, um, and my role is really I'm out of 90% of my work is making sure the company is running, taking care of all the day-to-day stuff. I'm lead sales. One of my teammates, he does sales retention. So our retention rate with our clientele is over 80%. And that is intentional because we are relationship based. So when we lose a client, it does not sit well with me. I have to go and have a coffee or decompress somewhere. My team is bounces back a little bit better than I, but I was like, it's personal to me. I don't like losing clients, especially because of the stories we get to tell with them, and that's the essence of it. So that's my day to day. Really is just like really new sales, administration, making bookkeeping, human resources, that type of stuff, and so lead marketing.
That's super awesome.
So, and the reason why I'm still doing the marketing is because I haven't quite figured out what I want to really do going forward to hand it off completely. I have somebody doing the technical stuff where I'm still doing some of the strategic stuff. Plus, I like it, but I know at some point I gotta let it go. But just like doing the regular production, I do maybe 5% of my working time is in actual video production, is where I'm in the field or behind an editing machine.
Right.
Because the rest of it is all about making sure the company is running.
Man, that's awesome. That's super awesome. And then, do you know where we got the illusion "burn the ship" from?
Burn the ship? No, I don't.
So, Central American conquistador thought he landed in modern day America, but he lands in modern day Mexico. Him and his armada of ships, whenever they land, he made his men take off all of their supplies, all their livelihood, everything, and disassemble the ships. And he made them burn the ships on the beaches. And that was him telling them that we're gonna make it here, we're gonna die trying. And we do the same thing as entrepreneurs, and in business, we do the same thing. So, Paul, what was that burn the ship moment, and what were your feelings? I mean, not what was it? I mean, more of, we've already covered that, but what was the feelings whenever you burned the ship and went all in on your business?
My feelings have always been, it's like you figure you're lost or you're what do I do next? But I've always been good at pivoting.
Right.
And I've always been good at pivoting, and I've always been good at knowing where my strengths lie and going all in on it.
Right.
And following my gut. And so anytime, there's some adversity or something, I just sit there and listen to my gut on where I should go next. And so I mean, I think that right there, but I also think that, the relationships that I've built help cushion any type of adversity that I run into, because there's always somebody there, it feels like, that has my back,
which is awesome.
And that's intentional. How you say, what's your burn the ship moment? One of the things that I don't do when it comes to burning is burn a bridge.
Right.
I always make sure that I have solid relationships, and that, because you never know when that comes back.
Yep, you never know when that person turns into Robert Kraft, or or Arthur Blank. You never know, because it's always possible. It could be the dude that graduated 700th in your class out of 700 people that becomes that one person. You know what I mean? It's just how life goes, and it's one of those things that I didn't learn. Fortunately for me, I didn't learn it till later on, just because I was hard-headed, as a bit of an asshole growing up, definitely still a little bit of one. But I I thought I was just gonna make it on my own, just because I'm very
Hmm.
driven. So I was like, I'll just do all this on my own. I'm not really worried about it. I ain't stressing about it. Just how would I say it? I guess blindly walking through life. Parents, I didn't grow up with really any money at all. So like my grandparents were
Mm.
both sides are very wealthy, but wasn't given. You know what I mean? Everything was earned, not given to them. So to my parents, so it was more of a growing up and watching them, and then kind of seeing everything that I do day to day as I got older. I was like, man, this is awesome. So and then I realized that everything revolved around relationships once I got to college. So I start being like, really when I got to my 4 year, because I went to a small junior college first, and then I get to the 4 year, and it was like, wait, this homework's a little harder than it was in junior college. So now let's see if I can collab with some people in class, see what they want to do, if they want to help out or if they want to meet up. And then it's like, screw you, we already doing it. You didn't want to hang out with us when we were first doing it. Now we've already been doing it for 3 weeks. And now you want to hop in? Nah, we'll help you out whenever we can. And then it just falls over off to the end, and then you finally, breaking down that wall and finally getting in there and be like, look, I didn't want to copy y'all's work. I want to help. You know what I mean? I don't want to just, I don't want to just come in here and sit here and be quiet. I want to help you guys just while y'all are helping me. This is a group effort. And I definitely didn't appreciate that relationship aspect. So I would say about 3 years ago. So and then it's helped out a ton because I just graduated in May. So and once I'd hopped here, I started building off of it. But I also didn't understand what it was to really break down that wall. You know what I mean? It's like, as we always say in here, me and our sales director, it's you can go talk to 1,000 women. You know what I mean? Every time you go out somewhere. But why we do it? We practice because that one time we're gonna run into Halle Berry, and we're gonna be able to have that conversation just like we had with the regular person that we see once a week, or we know them. That girl or you hang out with all the time. You'll be able to say the same thing you say to her to Halle Berry, and it's gonna be like, wow, he's a real person.
Hmm.
So that is one of
Right.
those things, man. I definitely can appreciate that for sure. But now, Paul, tell the people where to find you.
Well, you can find me personally. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Instagram. Those are my two major platforms. As for my company, uh, you go to UnoDuece.com. That's UnoDeuce.com, and that's where you can find everything else from there. That you start there and go wherever else.
Cool. All Paul's links will be down in the description below. Love for you guys to click on him. Go check him out. Awesome guy. Even if you didn't make the full podcast, definitely go check him out. It's worth looking at. And
Appreciate
Paul,
it.
burn the ship. Thank you.
Thank you.